and Muslim mayor of New York City. He's also the youngest mayor of the city in over 100 years. Now the question is, as you're watching this broadcast in Bangalore or Hyderabad or Delhi or Mumbai, why should you care about some city 10,000 miles away and them electing somebody who happens to be of Indian origin? Well, for starters, he is of Indian origin. His parents are Mahmood Mamdani, who is a famous African-American professor of African studies, really, at the Columbia University. And his mother is a little more well-known here in India, the famous filmmaker Meera Nair. But that's just one part of it. More than that, he ran on a stridently anti-Trump campaign. And there is evidence to show that a large number of Indian Americans in New York voted for him, despite his very anti-India and anti-Modi comments. He has made very uncharitable and frankly factually incorrect statements about Mr. Modi, his government, the BJP and its policies and so on and so forth. We will talk about all of that. We'll break down all of that. But first, I want to bring you up to speed with why this election is important. After all, it is not just about one city, as big and as rich and as important as New York City seems to be to America and perhaps even to the rest of the world. It's not just about that one city. There were elections across multiple states in the United States. And this is the first electoral test, as it were, of the Trump administration in the 9 months that Mr. Trump has been in office. And America has sent out a message to their president more than to anyone else. I'll tell you all about that in just a second. Zohran Mamdani, the 34-year-old lawmaker who transformed himself into a voice for oppressed New Yorkers, was elected the city's mayor.
I want to speak to the Muslim who works for our city.
In the process, he became the first Muslim and first Indian American mayor in the world's richest city. He also happens to be the youngest mayor of New York in over 100 years. His victory completed one of the most remarkable political upsets in New York history and will soon put a democratic socialist in the seat of power in the world's most capitalist city. Mamdani defeated former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, in a rematch of June's Democratic primary. New Yorkers soundly rejected the establishment candidate that was Cuomo, a man who was once the most powerful figure in the state. And instead, they chose the anti-establishment Mamdani. Curtis Sliwa, who was the Republican, was a distant third place. In a victory speech in Brooklyn, Mamdani told his supporters that they had toppled a political dynasty and empowered the hard-working chefs and waiters and delivery boys and taxi drivers of New York. He also had a loud and clear message for President Donald Trump.
Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Turnout went past 2 million voters, which is the highest level of voter turnout in New York City since the city's municipal elections back in 1969. A state assemblyman from Queens, Mamdani had entered the contest just about a year ago as a little more than a protest candidate. He had a very thin resume and also virtually no experience in governance whatsoever. But his intense focus on affordability, whether it is for groceries or for housing, his mastery of social media, and his relentless optimism about New York galvanized record turnout amongst young voters as well as immigrant voters. Born in Uganda to parents of Indian descent, his father is a renowned professor, Mahmood Mamdani, and his mother is the famous filmmaker Meera Nair. Mamdani will also be the first naturalized immigrant to serve as mayor of New York since Abraham Bean in the 1970s. Mamdani has called for raising taxes on the wealthy, promised free bus rides and free childcare, a rent freeze on apartments, and overhauling the police department. But he's also an equally polarizing figure with his stridently anti-Israel views. He's been an ardent supporter of the Free Palestine movement and a ruthless critic of Israel, especially of its current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his war in Gaza. He has called Netanyahu a war criminal and has promised that he will arrest Netanyahu if he lands up in New York. many Jewish citizens of New York and business leaders deeply mistrust Mamdani. In fact, many business leaders have said that they will exit New York if Mamdani became mayor. But this fight was also a fight between Mamdani and Donald Trump. Trump has called Mamdani a communist and an extremist. His supporters have called him a jihadi. Trump even threatened to withhold funds to New York City if it elected Mamdani. He even gave a very late endorsement to Andrew Cuomo, the other contestant in the race, but even that was not able to stop the Mamdani surge. Trump has even threatened to send National Guard troops to New York, just like he's done with other major Democrat cities like Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and Chicago.
We have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing. Practically, he's never worked a day in his life. And he sort of caught on, right? And I'm not going to send a lot of money to New York. I don't have to.
Overall, it was a bad night for Trump and the Republicans. The Democrats got big wins. They won the governor's races in New Jersey and in Virginia. These are all admittedly Democrat-leaning states, but it gives a sense of the mood of the nation. It was the first major election after Trump returned to office 9 months ago. The message from America to Trump is clear. We don't like what you're doing, and we need you to course correct. There are two major issues which seem to have done the Republicans in: rising prices and immigration. And these are the same issues, by the way, which Trump promised to fix and had played a large part in his election victory that happened last year. But almost a year into office, Americans in these states are telling Trump he's not living up to his promises. Prices of essential groceries, especially eggs and beef and vegetables and other food items, have not come down substantially. Neither have costs of home ownership or home rentals. On the immigration story, Trump promised to throw out all the illegals, but his forced deportations using ICE agents and sending National Guard troops inside factories and residential quarters in major cities, that seems to have spooked even legal immigrants in many of these states. As analysts have noted, Tuesday night was a rebuke or a repudiation of Trump's policies in the last 9 months of his second term. Trump, though, says this is not a reflection on him, as he was not on the ballot Tuesday night.
You know, you expect a party to win places where they have a plurality or majority of the electorate when the other party's in control of the White House, but not by this margin. So there's a tremendous signal here for Republicans. They won't get it unless Donald Trump gives them permission to get it. And look, there are lots of reasons for it, affordability and all the other issues they were discussing, but the number one, number two, and number three reason, Donald J. Trump. In the last 9 months, Trump has done more controversial, some would say outrageous things than any president in American history, including Donald Trump 1.0. This has a cumulative effect.
With their election triumphs on Tuesday, the Democrats have showed that their demoralized party can still accomplish big wins. The decisive victories for governor in Virginia and New Jersey and the mayor of New York and a major ballot initiative in California showed crucial signs of life for the Democrats. Just a year ago, they were battered in all 7 presidential battleground states. They lost control of the Senate and they failed to win the House of Representatives. Next year, there's going to be midterm elections, which will give the Democrats a chance to reverse this. As for Trump, he could come away with the Tuesday results and pivot more to the center. He could mellow down his unilateral style of functioning and try to be more of a unifying figure both within his party and across America. Or he could do the exact opposite and gravitate even further extreme towards his unhinged style of functioning and push America further into polarization between the Democrats and the Republicans. He's already bailed by saying that he was not on the ballot, so therefore the results are not a reflection on his presidency. Americans, though, are hoping that their president will learn the right lessons from election night and learn them quickly. But it's all hunky-dory. There are a couple of problems with Zohran Mamdani and his utterances in the past, especially when it comes to India, to the government of the day, to Mr. Modi. These are not just anti-India and anti-Modi, but they're also seen as detrimental to Indians. Now, he's made repeatedly claims about the Indian Prime Minister, accusing Mr. Modi and his government of eroding pluralism in India, which is patently untrue. There are tens of millions of minorities in the country, whether they're Muslims or Christians or Buddhists or Jains. Back in 2019 and in 2020, when the CAA protests were happening, he sort of deliberately condemned the CAA, which was passed by the Indian Parliament. He led multiple protests in New York City, even though this was not an act of Parliament that concerned in any way people living in New York. He was also part of a hate mob that would claim that this was a law meant to oppress Muslims in India. In 2020, he joined a protest in Times Square against the construction of the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, where again, some demonstrators were filmed chanting anti-Hindu slogans. His sharpest critiques portray Modi as responsible for the anti-Muslim violence in Gujarat when he was chief minister in 2002. In fact, he's called Mr. Modi a war criminal, likening him to Benjamin Netanyahu. He has said that whether it's Netanyahu or Modi, if they were to land up in New York City, he would arrest them. Now, those are the comments. Those are not just uncharitable comments. Those are not just stridently anti-India comments. Those are also very problematic comments if there needs to be a forward movement in terms of the relationship, which in itself has been battered a bit in the last few months because of Trump and his tariffs. I want to go across to Sushant Sareen, senior fellow from the Observer Research Foundation. Look, and I said this at the top, Sushant, why should Indian viewers care? They should care because of the utterances that Mamdani has made and also the stridently anti-India stuff that he has said. What do you make of the fact that he's being now portrayed as this beacon of hope and the guy who's standing up to Trump and he's going to be the anti-Trump, anti-establishment guy, but at the same time, there are problems that not least of all people here in India will have with some of his comments in the past?
Yeah, I think look, India will certainly have problems with him, but it doesn't really, he's not our dog, really, he's an American. He denies his Indian heritage. He's never claimed he's Indian. He's Ugandan and American citizen. His mother might have been an Indian, but I think she's also abandoned India. So I don't see an Indian connection out here. So I don't consider him to be an Indian. Secondly, as mayor of New York, he can say what we had Kejriwal in Delhi, right? He seems to be the Kejriwal of New York, in a manner of speaking, and quite clearly he's making promises he can never keep. And his threats that he's going to arrest either Mr. Netanyahu or Mr. Modi is just a lot of hot air, because when these guys go to New York or any place in America, especially when they are heads of state or heads of government, they go with diplomatic immunity. So there is nothing he can do about it. So that's a whole lot of hot air. And I don't think at least Mr. Modi is interested in just going to New York for hanging out there or for a holiday. So that's not going to happen. Thirdly, it's very clear. He spoke about every community in the United States. He never mentioned the Hindus. So frankly, the Hindus in New York who voted for him, they are like, chickens for KFC, in a manner of speaking, because frankly, he has no use for them. He hobnobbed with the Khalistanis. He hobnobbed with Muslim radicals. He hobnobbed with all kinds of characters. And he's tried to be everything to everybody, which means he's going to be nothing to nobody. And at the end of the day, his record will be judged on whether he can deliver on the tall promises he has made. And, it's one thing to be in opposition and to be rabble-rousing and to be getting support of everybody by promising them everything. But when you actually have to start delivering, it's very difficult. But Zaka, to a certain extent, not that this election suggests anything about the larger political reality of the United States, but at one level, what is the choice people have? You either have the mad MAGA crowd, or you have Mamdani, right? A Marxist-leaning Mamdani. If that is the choice that American voters have, then it tells you a lot about the kind of polarization which has taken place, and that old mainstream kind of politics which, gravitated around the center. You could be a little left of center, right of center. That seems to be getting squeezed out. So you have these loony lefties on one side and you have the loony righties on the other side. And where will the twain meet? So I think there are serious problems which are emerging in American politics. But then again, like I said, it's American politics. Who cares?
I just want to, even in the context of Indian Americans, for the longest time, they were supposed to be, heavily in favor of the Democratic Party. But in the last election, there's evidence to show that a large number of Indian Americans, switched sides and voted for Trump. But because of what Trump has done on immigration, not just illegal immigration, but even on legal immigration like H-1B and so on and so forth, in this election, I'm told, there was stuff on Twitter as well about the various precincts in New York. A lot of Indian Americans have gone and supported Mamdani. I mean, as you said, is it just a case of, caught between the devil and the deep sea and therefore they have no choice?
Quite clearly, it is being caught between the devil and the deep sea, and they really have, what is their choice? So I think one of the reasons why most Indians were moving towards the Republican Party was that at some level, most of these guys who have gone from India work hard. These are people with certain conservative values. Maybe their children aren't, but by and large, these are people who believe that if you work hard, you accumulate wealth, then that's the way things have to be done. And they seem to be more comfortable with some of the stuff that the Republican Party was talking about. But now we see that in the Republican Party, it's the white, racist, nationalist, Christian lot which seems to have taken over, and there are no filters in them. So clearly these people are feeling threatened. But the problem for them is going to be, like it has happened in London, there is no security for people from, at least of Hindu origin in London, for example. You have a Muslim mayor who only espouses Muslim causes. And the kind of policing which is happening in London gives many of these characters a free pass. So something similar we might start seeing happening in New York. But you also see what has happened in New Jersey. The way the Indian voter shifted completely onto the Democratic side in New Jersey, where they have about 5% of the population or the voting population. I think that's a fairly significant number. And that has also happened. But I think for Indian Americans, I think there is a certain sense of unease which is growing because of the kind of politics which is there in the United States.
I mean, even to the extent that the vice president got a lot of flack for denouncing his wife and her faith, in the comments that he made last week. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow from the Observer Research Foundation, with his thoughts and perspective. Also, talking about this India connection, Zohran Mamdani, in his victory speech today in New York, he also quoted India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru in a portion of his famous India's Tryst with Destiny speech, the Independence Day speech from 15th of August 1947. And in that speech, the portion that he quoted, where Mr. Nehru said, "There comes a time, rarely in history, when we step out from the old to the new." Mamdani sort of paraphrased that. And the Congress party picked that up and attacked the Modi government, saying that, look, you can take Nehru away from the history books, you can erase or try to erase him from India's history, but you can't quite suppress him, giving the evidence of Mamdani's speech from his victory, the portion of his victory speech. Let's listen in to that part.
Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new.
The Congress is in a celebratory mood as far as the election of Mamdani as a mayor is concerned, but there's a political reason behind it. He's been known as a baiter of the American President Donald Trump, and the Congress party has been consistently attacking the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, taking pot shots at him and taking barbs also at him for the fact that Donald Trump and the Prime Minister share a very good equation. In the backdrop of the tariff turmoil, they're pointing out that what was the point of this dosti which has gone against the interest of India. Now, Mamdani's known political line, where he's seen as being against Donald Trump, is also the reason why he has endeared himself to the Congress party. But there's another reason behind it. In his winning speech, Mamdani also made a reference to Jawaharlal Nehru's tryst with destiny. We know that one issue which consistently has been raised by the Congress party is that the Prime Minister shifts the blame of all his failures, according to the Congress party, foreign policy, any other domestic policy, on Jawaharlal Nehru. That he has always held him accountable. He's been very, very critical. And there's an attempt which is being made by the BJP, including the Prime Minister, of wiping out the legacy of India's first Prime Minister of independent India. So when Mamdani talked about the Jawaharlal Nehru speech of Tryst with Destiny, this is how the Congress party hailed it, from Jairam Ramesh to Supriya Srinath. Almost every top Congress leader said that, look, the world recognizes the importance of Jawaharlal Nehru, his contribution to the world, to society and to India as well, but the Prime Minister of India is not acknowledging it. So it's very clear that Mamdani has now become that kind of a poster boy for the Congress party, to point out that those who have an anti-establishment voice, those who appreciate the contributions of the Nehru-Gandhi dynasty, they win elections. They are the ones where people do understand that their value and therefore voted for them.
Just getting the first pictures of Prime Minister Modi and the reception that he hosted for the Women's World Champions, the one-day World Champions, the Indian women's cricket team. They were at his residence at 7 LKM. The Prime Minister congratulated the team for the victory, and he praised their remarkable comeback in the tournament after a string of 3 defeats, and of course the heavy trolling that they had to face on social media as a result of those 3 defeats. But in the semi-final and then in the final, what an incredible performance it was by Captain Harmanpreet Kaur and her girls, the queens of cricket, the newly crowned queens of cricket. In fact, Harmanpreet, in that meeting with the Prime Minister, also recalled a previous meeting that they had with Prime Minister Modi in 2017, when they had met the Prime Minister without the trophy, and now they have met him with the trophy. They wish to meet him more often, is what the Indian captain said. Let me go across to Arun Thanta with more on this. So, Arun, these are the first pictures of Prime Minister Modi meeting the women's cricket team. What was spoken in that interaction?
Well, Zaka, you just summed up the conversation which happened inside between, of course, the World Cup winning Indian women's team and, of course, Prime Minister Modi. And we've been discussing this, that this has been a feature of Prime Minister Modi. We have seen in the past, then in 2024, when Indian men's team won the T20 World Cup, they were also here. They met Prime Minister Modi. Now we are seeing women's World Cup winning team here. And also at 4:30, the team entered the Prime Minister's residence. And as we speak, Zaka, the team is still inside. And also, of course, we've seen that the entire team has gifted that T-shirt with signature of all the players to Prime Minister Modi. There's a pose also in which Prime Minister Modi is holding that World Cup which Indian team has won. And of course the photos and the videos of the conversation, that seems to be a very wonderful conversation, where perhaps all the players would have shared their journey of this World Cup. And Prime Minister Modi is also, of course, telling them that he watched a few matches, including that the moment when Harmanpreet Kaur put that ball inside her pocket after winning the trophy. So Prime Minister Modi, of course, giving that personal touch, and this is what is appearing in the photographs also, that there was a very wonderful conversation with Prime Minister Modi with the team.
Okay, Arun, we'll leave it at that. We will come back to you as and when there are further updates in that meeting between the Prime Minister and the newly crowned world champions of women's cricket, the Indian cricket team. A day ahead of the Bihar elections, Congress MP and Lok Sabha Leader of the Opposition Rahul Gandhi levelled serious allegations against the Election Commission and against the BJP, while he made Operation Sarkar Chori in Haryana as far as the Haryana Assembly elections of 2024 are concerned. He addressed a press conference today. Rahul Gandhi alleged Operation Sarkar Chori was launched in 2024 in Haryana, to which the BJP has hit back. Union Minister Kiren Rijiju has dismissed the Congress leader's charge as diversionary tactic ahead of the Bihar elections. Rahul Gandhi further said that the operation was to convert the landslide victory that the Congress was due for into a loss in Haryana. Calling his presentation fake, the minister said that Rahul Gandhi's claims were to hide the Congress's failure and its loss in the elections. He also contended that 25 lakh fake voters, 1 in 8 voters in Haryana were fake. That's the contention that Rahul Gandhi made. Union Minister Rijiju further said that the Congress was looking for excuses for its impending defeat ahead of the Bihar election on Thursday. So, claims and counterclaims. Let's listen in to what Rahul Gandhi said.
Who is this lady? How old is she? Which state does she come from? What's her name? She votes 22 times in Haryana. And she votes in 10 different booths in Haryana. That's a stock photograph. And she is one of 25 lakh such records in Haryana. 2 crore total voters, vote Chori of 25 lakhs, possibly more, but confirmed bias of 25 lakhs. That means 1 in 8 voters in Haryana are fake.
तो हमारा देश विरोधी ताकतों के साथ मिलकर के जो षड्यंत्र रचा रहे हैं वो कभी सफल नहीं होगा हमारा देश में। कांग्रेस पार्टी जो कांग्रेस की विफलता को राहुल गांधी के सर में फोड़ने के बजाय ईवीएम को फोड़ रहे हैं। वोट चोरी का क्या अर्थ होता है? खुद को इतने साल उनके परिवार इस देश को चलाया, तो क्या वोट चोरी से ही चलाया था?
Now, the Election Commission too has countered Rahul Gandhi's claims. Election panel sources have told CNN News 18 that 1, there were 0 appeals made against any of these electoral roll frauds in Haryana in 2024. Only 22 election petitions are currently pending in the High Court, and this is after the 2 crore voters of Haryana voted. Now, the poll panel also asks, why didn't the Congress and any of its poll agents, and there are tens of lakhs of them, why didn't any of the poll agents object to these electoral rolls if they had doubts at the time? It's been over a year now since the Haryana election. Now, before the Election Commission goes on to also ask Rahul Gandhi, why is he then against the SIR? Because the whole point of the SIR exercise is to remove duplicate voters. And number 5, the Election Commission in its rebuttal also asking why there were no objections raised by Congress booth-level agents during the initial draft of the rolls or the revision of the rolls. Why is this now being raised over a year after the Haryana elections?
What is clearly getting obvious now is that there has been a very systematic way of taking away eligible voters and bringing in ineligible voters. He did this with Karnataka through a press conference. Shri Aditya Thackeray spoke about Maharashtra, his constituency as well, where he focused on his constituency, but we have done an entire Mumbai research and we have realized that so many voter additions and deletions have happened, which we will bring out at the right time. And now we see with Haryana. So it's very clear that there is a systematic attempt to undermine the democratic process of voting, to undermine the free and fair electoral process. And I believe that this calls for Election Commission to speak up.
जितने चुनाव भारतीय जनता पार्टी जीत रही है उनके ऊपर बड़ा प्रश्न चिन्ह है, मगर आप ये समझे कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट कुछ कर देगा, इलेक्शन कमीशन कुछ कर देगा, कोई कुछ नहीं करेगा। जनता को अपनी आवाज़ उठानी पड़ेगी। जनता को इस सरकार के खिलाफ लोकतांत्रिक ढंग से अपनी बात को रखना पड़ेगा। घर बैठ के काम नहीं चलेगा।
I want to go straight across for a face-off on this. Charu Pragya, spokesperson of the BJP, Ashpreet Karyal, spokesperson of the Congress, joining us. Radhika, so Mr. Gandhi's contention, there are 25 lakh fake voters. Charu, 25 lakh fake voters in Haryana. He claims 1 in 8 voters in Haryana is fake. He's also played out a clip of the Haryana CM from a day before the results came out and said, "Hamare paas vyavastha hai." And then his most damning allegation, which he says, is that he's shown this photograph of a person he claims is a Brazilian model, has different names, and claims that she has voted 22 times at 10 different booths. Please explain.
Taka, good evening. This is one other blunder made by the Congress because they see Bihar completely slipping out of their grasp. This is exactly what is happening. One day before voting in Bihar, they are trying to deflect attention because they see loss on the horizon. And this you can write in capital letters and put it as a ticker on your shoe, Tisaka. Now, what kind of proof is Rahul Gandhi presenting? His proof is that Seniji smiled. That is his proof. His proof is putting up these sheets on a presentation without telling us who has verified this information. And when we ask him that why do you not sign an affidavit and lodge a formal complaint, he refuses to do that. Tell me, Zaka, if I were to allege a theft or a murder or any kind of a crime, am I not required to go to a police station and file a simple FIR or a complaint? Why will anybody take action on anything that I'm alleging without a formal complaint in place? Rahul Gandhi refused to do that because he knows that he's going to be caught in his own web of lies. Like he got caught with Minta Devi, like he got caught with Shakun Rani, like he got today caught with a lady called Anjali, whose name and photograph he was using, but Anjali came in front of the and
So,
refuted all.
Ashpreet, these are very, very big and fancy claims made by the
One
leader of the
last-
opposition.
very last, very
Why
quick-
is it, and the Election Commission is also asking this question, if the leader of the opposition's claim is 1 out of 8 voters in Haryana were fake, why did the tens of lakhs of Congress booth agents not raise this either
Yes.
before the election happened or after the election happened? Why raise this now 1 year plus after the election has happened?
See, being a lawyer, I'll give an example. There are many a times when FIRs are lodged 1 year after the occurrence, 2 years after the occurrence, even 7 years after the occurrence, and we have seen cases where it has led to convictions. So late does not mean that the wrong hasn't happened. Number two, these are concerns which which need to be addressed, and the Election Commission of India and the Bharatiya Janata Party, instead of addressing these concerns, wants to run away from it. Number one, 25 lakh fake voters have been found to be there in electoral rolls of Haryana, and this is proven by the fact that SIR is needed. SIR is being done. Why is the SIR being done?
No, but how do you know that 25 lakh fake voters were there in the first place? What's the evidentiary basis for it?
See, number one, we have done the vetting. 5,21,619 duplicate voters, 93,000 invalid addresses, 19,26,351 bulk voters. One address has 501 votes, 1,24,177 voters with fake photos. And for the first time, it happened in Haryana that the postal ballots were different from what the results were. And number two, Zaka, why do we have to have SIR? SIR goes on to suggest now that there are fake voters, there are cleansing is needed, and
No, but you opposed SIR. You are still opposed to SIR.
1 second. Even if we are opposed to the SIR, the logic of the SIR is that there are fake voters and they need to be cleansed. They need to be deleted, right? And this proves it. SIR proves it. And number two, then why did nothing was done and said in the Lok Sabha election? Why was nothing done and said in the previous assembly elections that took place recently? This goes on to suggest that the Election Commission of India has failed. It's a certificate of failure. In the Lok Sabha
No,
election...
but Ashpreet, I'm still not able to understand on what basis this claim has been made that 1 out of 8 voters was fake, that 25 lakh fake voters were there in Haryana. It's a big claim to make in a small state.
Like I said, vetting in detail has been done. And if the Election Commission of India does not want to believe us, do an inquiry, do an investigation. If nothing is found out, great. If everything is found out, then also great. It's important for the world's largest democracy to do it. Why not have an inquiry? Why not have an investigation?
Charu, why not investigate again in the case of Karnataka, where he earlier made these claims? Alan constituency and Mahadevpura constituency, they constituted an SIT, admittedly under the state government, and that SIT has said that there was 80 names that were added or removed from one particular call center. Some X amount of money was paid for each of those voters to be deleted or added. Now, my point is, why is the same not being done by the state government in Haryana? You come clean and order an investigation. Let's find out. Let's see if Rahul Gandhi's claims are true or not.
Zaka, fair enough. Please get an investigation done. But how will an investigation happen? Not by shooting off your mouth from the safety of a podium, by lodging a formal complaint, which is exactly what the CEO of Karnataka asked Rahul Gandhi to do. He told him, "Kaun sa form lena hai, usme kya fill karna hai, all you're required to do is just write your claims on paper and sign it." Why is it that the Congress party shies away from doing exactly this? Their ex-minister, who's ex now only because he stood against Rahul Gandhi, Ravanna ji, was fired from his position as a minister because he didn't agree with Rahul Gandhi's claims. See, here is the truth of it. The stories don't add up, Zaka. The claim that Rahul Gandhi made of one lady voting 223 times in different booths, it would mean that she's voting every 3 minutes, queuing up, giving her ID, voting every 3 minutes. It's humanly impossible. It is impossible. And
who is this, as he claims, a Brazilian model who has voted 22 times in 10 booths? He says sometimes her name is Seema, sometimes her name is Sita, sometimes her name is something else. Who is this person?
Okay, so, Zaka, here is what I'm going to explain. Last time, Rahul Gandhi put up these big sheets of paper in a presentation, a life-size presentation. The Election Commission actually said that this is not our data. So I am going to go by the same logic and say he picks up any random bit of information which is not being verified. Otherwise, why would an Anjali already jump in from Haryana and say that all the tall things that Rahul Gandhi is claiming about me are all lies?
So,
they're all lies.
Ashpreet,
Also,
you know,
understand
you are
in
still
Haryana,
not
there are
answering
only 22
why this is not an excuse for an impending
only
defeat
22
in
pending.
Bihar. What is the logic of doing it on the eve of the first phase of voting in
Exactly.
Bihar? And why are you trying to sow seeds of doubt in the integrity of the election process in India? I mean, the only reason for that could be that either you can't defeat Modi in elections, or you feel like, you have to convince voters that the system is rigged.
We do not have to, sow any seeds of doubt, because there is no doubt. It's a fact. And this is proven that it's a fact because we are having to do an SIR. And it's something that once I did not interrupt you.
SIR happened in 12 states then,
I
right?
did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you. Let's have some
Actually,
decorum.
I'm only seconding your point,
Zaka,
right?
if I have your permission.
Yeah. Okay, Ashpreet, yeah.
Thank you. So the Bharatiya Janata Party is doing what it always does, trying to suppress the voice of the opposition. Here what the questions are, here what the concerns are. It is for the welfare and the betterment of the people. The Bharatiya Janata Party should be on this. The Election Commission of India should be on this. That we need to look into this. If this has happened, investigation should be done in a time-bound manner, in a fast-track manner, and we'll see what happened and what did not. But why?
No, but Ashpreet, for the investigation to happen, you have to register a complaint. Why are you not registering a complaint?
Now answering that as well. Mr. Gandhi did not talk to one person in four walls of a room. He did a press conference communicating with one second, 144 people. It is on record. It is official. It is on record. It is official. 1 second. If it is wrong, then is there any defamation suit? Is there any complaint against Mr. Gandhi if he's giving false information? Yes. Is there any FIR? Yes. Is there any complaint of any sort? Any application of any sort? None. Number two, the Bharatiya Janata Party, does it know or does it not that in the Supreme Court an EVM was recounted and the results changed? The winner was declared loser and the loser was declared winner. It happened for the first time. And number two, why does the Bharatiya Janata Party have to be so afraid of an investigation? Why do you have to run away from an investigation? Say it, now bring it on. Accept our challenge.
No, but Ashpreet, if all the electoral rolls are rigged and there are fake voters and additional voters, okay, in Maharashtra, in Karnataka, in Haryana, I mean, if you're saying that the system is rigged, then why are you taking part in elections? You should say you'll boycott elections. The system is rigged anyway. It's a fixed match.
Number one, the people who are wrong don't quit, don't give up. They fight back. And we'll fight back on this, and we'll ensure that the truth comes out, and the wrongs and all the things that are happening will be exposed. Number two, the Bharatiya Janata Party, just tell us one question. When Mr. Advani back in the day used to question the EVMs, would you say that he's lying, or why has he not given an affidavit? Why does the story change when it comes to our leaders? Why does the entire contention changes? So all we are saying is that investigation ought to be done. Does the Bharatiya Janata Party accept it or does it not?
Charu, also, I mean, the Congress spokesperson is saying whatever Mr. Gandhi has said is there on the public record. Why doesn't the Election Commission come out and suo moto say, okay, we will file the complaint because he's raising charges on us. Let's have an investigation, find out what the truth is.
Zaka, let's stick only to facts, right? Now the opposition had a problem with EVMs. They did move to Supreme Court. The result came negative for them.
Is it not? Do you accept the challenge for investigation?
No, one at a time.
They went to the Supreme Court again against the SIR process. Again, the result was against them because SIR happened in Bihar. It's going to happen in 12 more states. And now, apparently, Rahul Gandhi has become the biggest...
Why are we doing it? To delete the voters. That is why we are doing it.
Okay.
Ashpreet, now you are interrupting me. Now in Haryana, there was a voter division process that happened. How many objections were raised? None. What were all the BLAs doing? All the block level agents of Congress, what were you doing? Why
so Election Commission says there are only 22 pending election pleas in a state with 2 crore voters.
There you are making claims of lakhs and lakhs. See, the most important thing here is that Rahul Gandhi has become a habitual liar, whether it was about the...
If there's nothing to hide, do you accept investigation?
Okay, I got to wrap up. Thank you very much, Charu, and to Ashpreet Kadyal. We'll see how this plays out. But I'm not sure, what the intent of this exercise is. And on the eve of the Bihar election, is it, as the BJP claims, laying the ground for an excuse for an impending defeat? Or is it to sow the seeds of doubt in the integrity of the election process? Or is it genuinely reforming these errors and these mistakes that have happened in electoral rolls. We'll see how this plays out. But I want to move on very quickly to a couple of other stories before we play out an interview in the back half of the show. Over the last 48 hours or so, India has witnessed 2 train tragedies back to back. One yesterday in Bilaspur in Chhattisgarh, where a passenger train collided with a goods train that resulted in the death of 11 people. Second one today in the state of Uttar Pradesh, where several pilgrims were hit by a train in Mirzapur, killing at least 6 people. And even as we speak, the lives of several injured are still hanging in the balance. First, let's take a look at the preliminary findings in the Bilaspur collision, which claimed 11 lives. It has exposed a critical safety lapse. It's called SPAD, or signal passed at danger. What is SPAD? Simply put, it is when a train ignores a red signal, risking catastrophic consequences. India's rail network relies heavily on human vigilance, and this incident has raised alarming questions about the railway safety protocols. The safety system, which is human dependent, also shows a red signal when the section ahead is busy and no other trains are allowed. However, in this case, it's claimed that the loco pilot or the driver of the train passed that signal, resulting in a SPAD. Next comes the accident that happened in Mirzapur, where in that tragedy, which claimed at least 6 lives after a train ran over several pilgrims who were crossing the railway tracks. The police have said that the women were crossing the tracks when another train, which was passing through at high speed, hit them, leading to their deaths. In the haste, the women who got down on the wrong side of the track instead of on the platform side, even though there was a foot-over bridge available at the station. This practice of skipping the bridge and crossing several tracks at a time is a usual attempt by passengers to try and save time and reach the main road quickly. In this case, it turned fatal.
इसमें कुछ मौतें भी हुई हैं। अभी एग्जैक्ट 5 लोगों की मौत की जानकारी थी और लगातार वहाँ पर प्रयास चल रहा है। तो बड़ा दुखद समाचार है। हम इसके लिए संवेदना व्यक्त करते हैं और जो भी होगा घायलों को उपचार के लिए भी अच्छा से अच्छा करें।
बिलासपुर में जो ट्रेन हादसा है बहुत दुखद है और सरकार केवल कोयला ढुलाने में व्यस्त है और उस चक्कर में यहाँ के नागरिक मारे जा रहे हैं। तो ये तो सीधी बात है कि आज इंसान की जान की कीमत कोयले से भी कम हो गया है।
All right, it is the season of elections, whether it is in Bihar or whether it is in New York City. Joining us to talk about this is a very special guest who's come all the way to our studios. Dr. Philip Ackerman is the Honorable Ambassador of Germany to India. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on CNN News 18. I believe you've been to Bihar and you quite enjoy the state, the culture, the local cuisine there.
I did, and I must say it's a very interesting state. And I will tell you one thing which, I will always remember. Bihar has the best museum of India. The Bihar Museum in Patna is the most state-of-the-art museum in India. It can compete with any international museum, and it is wonderfully exhibited, wonderfully explained. And I would recommend to everybody who goes to India to go to Patna to see this museum.
Do you have a view on the election, the big election that's coming up there?
I'm an ambassador, but I will tell you that state elections have a big role in a federal republic's life, like India, like Germany. So we are looking at our state elections like you look at yours. Bihar is a big state, an important state. So I think it is extremely exciting to see how things go, and we will be very curious to see the outcome in a couple of weeks.
Well, there were federal elections in the U.S. as well, from New York City to New Jersey and Virginia. Everyone's talking about Zohran Mamdani, even here in India because of his Indian roots. Again, I'm sure you caught up with the news earlier today about his victory in New York City. What do you make of that?
So I think it shows what a lively democracy the US is, that somebody who comes from basically zero and wins against an old established democratic nobility like Cuomo, as the Republicans have little say in New York. I think it's a great democratic achievement, I would say, whether you like Mamdani or not. It shows, that you can motivate people, that you can bring them to the urns and to the ballots. And I must say, of course, now the fact is he used to be the son of a very famous mother. Now I think the mother is mother of a very famous son very soon.
But do you think it's also, like you said, in democracy, there's always this, what I call a reset button, right? It's the way that people tell the powers that be or the government of the day that, look, we don't like these things that you're doing. This is our message to you to course correct.
Yeah,
do you
I
reckon
think
that is?
absolutely. I think the pendulum swings both sides, and it's in many ways a state election is a reaction to what happens at the center. Not exclusively. There is also some local politics playing.
Of course.
But there is always it always has an impact of what's happening on the national level. So you have to figure that.
So what do you make of foreign policy in the last 9 months or so? I mean, you're a foreign policy expert. You're an ambassador. It's just changed so much. I mean, every day is a new day. Every day there's a new challenge. How do people like you respond to that?
I think one can say it doesn't get easier. It's getting more and more complicated, more volatile, mercurial in a way. It's a difficult time in many ways. So I think that foreign policy has become more tense and more concerning than it used to, and I think diplomacy is more needed than ever, and that's good for us because we don't get unemployed, but it's maybe not so good for the world. So I think we have to do an extra effort to try to get more calm and steadiness and predictability in the world. I think, frankly, I must say that Indian foreign policy plays a very positive role in this whole
So one
setup.
of the underlying sort of foundations of foreign policy, certainly in the last 20 years, was built around the idea of free trade. Today, we're seeing challenges to the idea of free trade. I mean, you have Trump and his tariffs. Even in Europe, I mean, you're trying to figure out this balance of trade between China on the one side, the US on the other. What do you see as the future of free trade? Does it have a future at all?
I think it has, and I think Europe and Germany, as part of Europe, really do believe in free trade. And the most significant proof of this is that we are sitting together with India and trying to figure out how to agree on a free trade agreement. And I'm very positive that this will happen by the end of the year, and early next year we'll have something that is really a meaningful start for a good free trade agreement. I think free trade is, in a globalized world with such a differentiated supply chain setup, very, very important. I think we should do our best to get back to a good free trade environment. That doesn't mean that you have to open up all markets. That's certainly not possible. But I would say I see policies of deliberate tariff setting here and there as not really result-oriented, I would say.
So you think the response to an economy where people are talking about tariffs and there should be a premium to pay to trade with the world's biggest market and so on, the response to that is you go and pick up free trade agreements with other countries, other parts of the world?
I would say so. It is helpful to differentiate supply chains. We have seen it is not good to have only one supply chain. We need more supply chains. It opens up for foreign direct investment very much. And it gives the world more possibility to interchange goods and resources, technology. So I'm all for free trade agreements in the way that should be tailor-made for all, economic spaces, be that the EU, be that India, so to, make their trade and commercial exchange better and more.
What is your understanding of where the India-EU FTA negotiations are?
So I think we are really on a good way. I'm very, very optimistic. I wasn't always optimistic, but now I am. And I think in a way that the dedication and the resolve by the Prime Minister of India and the President of the Commission really helped getting the thing on a good track. We most probably will have an EU-India summit early next year, and by this date, I think we'll have something on the table that deserves.
By Republic Day next year is what we hear.
You hear? I'm not. I think it might be a probability.
It might be a probability. No. So I want to talk about the second issue, which in a way is linked to free trade, but also at a time when, immigration seems to have become like this bad word in the West, I would say, whether it's in the US or in the UK. At such a time, what is Germany offering to immigrants, to high-tech Indian, engineers and talent? I know you have a view on this issue. So
I have a clear view on this issue, and then will tell you that you are completely right when you say that migration has become a contested notion. It's not something that goes easily. But what our government in Germany tries to tell the population is that we need fair and legal migration in order to fill the vacancies in our job setup, but we have to combat illegal migration. And I think people do understand that this is necessary. Our demographic development is since 50 years below the 2.0 birth rate.
Yeah.
And therefore we need immigration. Now, India, we have concluded with the Indian government this migration and mobility partnership. We have a very, very engaged and open-minded Indian public, and we need in many, many ways skills that you find in India. For example, not only the IT layer, that goes without saying, but what we need is nurses, caregivers, apprentices, even craftsmen and bus drivers. So what we try to do is setting up a system together with trusted agencies and together with the governments, so that Indians who want to migrate, who want to move to Germany, find an environment where they get secure jobs with good social security and health insurance, and that the German employer benefits enormously from this Indian pool.
What we're seeing in terms of migration patterns, Indians are now reluctant to go to the US or even Canada for that matter, maybe to some extent even the UK and Australia. But you're saying Germany is opening its doors for Indian talent, yes, whether it is engineers or doctors or, like you said, nurses and caregivers.
Absolutely. And I will, we have all over the country, we have, with state governments, we have plans to bring, for example, nurses to a German level, because that's, the problem that we have. We have a language that is not spoken widely in India, so that they can move to Germany. And so far, it has been a huge success. We have 3 lakh Indians in Germany right now, and the number is growing by the year. And they are now already earning more than the average German is earning. So it's for us a hugely successful diaspora, and we are very much looking forward to get them.
I want to get a final word, and we can't not talk about this, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In India, whether India likes it or not, has become a party to this, in as much as India is now the only country that's being penalized. Tariffs, secondary oil tariffs of 25%. India has said that this is unfair, this is unjustified. How would you see it?
So I'd say that, I will not express myself on American policy towards India. That's not my job. But what I'm telling you is that I don't see a near end of this war, because so far at least one party is really not willing to engage in a meaningful way to bring this war to an end. That means that we have to really try to do our utmost to convince the parties, and this very one party in Moscow, to get in a way to sit at a table to discuss how to get out of this war, so that both sides can live with the result in a way. I don't want to say that one side wins or the other one loses. We need to have an agreement that is good for the Ukrainians also, not only for the
What do you think would it take for Russia to come to the negotiating table and
therefore I think Germany and Europe have put heavy sanctions on Russia also, and that is one means to get them to the table. And I think Russia is suffering from these sanctions also, and I hope that at some stage they will understand that in order to get out of it, they have to come to the table. But I'm not overly optimistic right now.
All right, Dr. Ackerman, it's a sad note to end this conversation on, but we've had a fine conversation. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot
for coming all the way to CNN News 18. Dr. Philip Ackerman there, the ambassador of Germany to India.
Co-presented by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Shifting focus to a CNN News 18 exclusive, Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, the first Indian to step aboard the International Space Station as part of the Axiom Mission 4, earlier spoke with my colleague Shrishti. This is an exclusive conversation in which he describes his space journey, an unforgettable experience, and what lies ahead. Listen in to that exclusive conversation. Today we have with us Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, yes, the Indian astronaut who made a historic mission for India and became the first Indian astronaut to board the International Space Station. Group Captain Shukla, welcome to CNN News 18. It's been months since that historic mission. How do you think it has changed the way people dream, the way India dream?
I think in a sense, a lot of ways it has changed. I did not have an idea of how this will impact people back home, but I can say that I'm extremely happy to see how people are excited about this, especially kids and youth. They are so excited about space now. They ask me such, strange and interesting questions. It just shows that their interest is growing and they're reading up on their own. And I think it is a great momentum that we should keep giving wave to, because the plan that we have of becoming a developed nation by 2047 and, precursor to that, a lot of missions that we have, I think getting this new generation excited and wanting to be involved, to be a part of this, I think that is going to be our core strength. So I'm really happy with the kind of excitement that is there in the country.
Right, sir. I think the big dream that India has is Gaganyaan, and the preparations are there. Yes, 2 years down the line. How do you think the preparations are going for that?
The preparations are going very well. In my talk today as well, one of the key points that I wanted to communicate was that the human space missions are extremely challenging and they're very complex. And I think that is what is to be understood by everyone. So these are not simple things to be done. So it takes time. But I'm very happy to say that the preparations are going very well and we are on the track. And now that we have been a part of a human space mission end to end, we have filled in the gaps. If at all there were some gaps, we have the knowledge now. And I think very soon we would be on our path of launching someone from Indian soil on an Indian rocket.
So it's been 5 decades since humans landed on the moon. You talked about it. So apart from just a technological demonstration, this human spaceflight, how important it is for India, also in terms of the scientific research? Why is it so important for us to do a human spaceflight?
See, when we pursue human spaceflight missions, what we are essentially trying to do is sustain life in an environment where it should not exist. The conditions are very harsh. And so what happens is, by pursuing this, you are solving very unique problems and coming up with unique solutions. And these solutions have a potential application for terrestrial based problems, over a period of time. And by pursuing such complex and arduous missions, what happens is that you create an entire ecosystem, the machinery to solve these complex problems, which not only solve these problems for you, but they solve a lot of other problems. And you stumble upon other solutions which you did not even think of in the first place. So I think just by the pursuit of such complex missions, you change the entire ecosystem of in a country of a particular section, and that ecosystem develops and it has the power to transform your education, transform your R&D setup, transform your industrial base setup, transform your economy and uplift so many people on earth. And I said this when during my talk as well, that when you launch one to space, you actually lift 1 million here on earth.
Right. So from being a test pilot in the Indian Air Force to now becoming an astronaut, how has life changed for you?
In terms of altitude, yes, a few, one more zero was added to how high I was flying, but it has changed in a lot of ways. I have been extremely fortunate to get the chance to travel to space and represent India on the International Space Station. And I absolutely enjoy that privilege that I have, but I also have a great sense of responsibility that comes along with it, and that is what my mission now is. I had a very different job description and mission back then when I was doing the test pilot job in the Air Force, and now I have a very different job and a very different mission. So I hope I'm able to do that as honestly and as sincerely as possible, and I hope I'm able to create and write this excitement which is there right now in the country and use this to enable our space program to grow by leaps and bounds of where we want to get.
Right. And becoming an astronaut is now a dream that millions of Indians thought about, but now it can actually turn into reality. What is one word to the students, to the young people who are really watching you and getting inspired? What is your word to them?
My word is, first thing, yes, please be inspired. Dream big. The first blockade that we have is in our own minds. Nothing is restricting you, nothing is stopping you. We are living in a country, in India of 2025 today, where everything is possible. It is only restricted by what you can think. Please dream big and please work hard towards that dream. Don't think of the future, do what you can do today. And my request or my message to you is that We as a nation have decided that we'll land on the moon by 2040. We as a nation have decided that we are going to be a developed nation by 2047. But it is you who will get us there. So please get involved. Please feel a part of this movement. Think what can you do to get us where we want to go. We will need all of you in future. So please working towards that.
Viewers, I don't want to even begin by trivializing this. It's an important story, but it all can only be critical and important and vital if the facts are adding up. With less than 24 hours to go before Bihar votes, Rahul Gandhi has suddenly discovered a, quote, nationwide electoral theft, unquote. At a dramatic press conference, the visuals are right there in front of you. He dropped the H bomb. H here stands for Haryana. He claimed 25 lakh fake voters in Haryana, bulk duplication, invalid entries, even a plot to, quote, reverse a Congress landslide, unquote. And he's talking about, not today, viewers, but back in October 2024, last year. Viewers, almost a year back. And when is he making all these